and Barney Feinblum herb garden.
Thank you, Governor. Chad Miller is actually going to manifest the design of this garden. So when will we see this garden? In the fall, or should we come next spring?
This summer.
This summer, sooner than I thought.
Yes.
Chad
yes.
Miller.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, everybody. Governor Polis, Barney, Julie, and guests, colleagues, thank you for being here today. I'm Chad Miller. I'm an associate professor in the Horticulture and Landscape Architecture Department, and I am the director of the CSU Trial Garden. So much of the space you see around us is the CSU Trial Garden space, which encompasses about 4 total acres. After years of vision and months of planning, today is the day that becomes a reality with the groundbreaking for the Julie and Barney Feinblum herb garden. With the generous support of the Feinblums, the living classroom herb garden here in the trial garden space and CSU Fort Collins campus will recognize and highlight the state's history and influence in the natural and organic products market, along with honoring the Feinblums for their commitment to these industries. This garden will be a wonderful addition to our campus, further enriching our campus and our community. Each year, thousands and thousands of visitors, we're talking tens of thousands here, folks, visit and enjoy these trial garden spaces and in the demonstration areas from across, not only from our community here, across the state, across the country, and worldwide. So Barney and Julie, people will see this garden, okay? And now all these folks will be able to enjoy the benefits of this herb garden, learning more about medicinal, culinary, and tea herbs, all specific areas of this soon-to-be garden. I hear time and time again how much visitors really appreciate the opportunities to connect to the natural environment, simply riding their bike through on the bike paths, or taking their lunches out here, or bringing their families and guests to the gardens whenever they visit. Of course, gardens and spaces like this just don't appear magically. They take significant amounts of planning and process and support. So I'd like to ask Zach Johnson to come up and say a few words, my colleague. He and his group have been working on the design and the installation of this herb garden. Zach?
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate it. What an amazing day. Spring in the Rocky Mountains. So thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks to the governor, thanks to the Feinblums, thanks for everybody just being part of an amazing opportunity today. So my name is Zach Johnson. I'm from the Department of Horticulture and Landscape Architecture and teach primarily in landscape design and contracting. And so we've had the amazing opportunity to work with students on this project. And this was one thing when we met with Barney early on, loved the idea of changing the world one plant at a time. And I think I'm ad-libbing a little bit about what Barney mentions that over and over again. But really the opportunity for students to engage in this. And they've led the design efforts from the very beginning, starting on this clear back last summer, working in the fall, and creating a design that's going to meet the needs of this space, the wishes of the Feinblum. So it's really amazing. Another important piece of this garden is to make sure that it is put together as sustainably as possible. And that's an important goal for all of our projects. And so what we did on this one was to make sure that our materials were sourced locally, that we used materials that were easily, replenishable, that they came back and we were able to, work through that whole renewable process. So that's been important. Additionally, in the construction, as we're going to go through this and that the students lead, we're able to reduce the construction time by about 20 to 25% by doing some really cutting edge construction techniques that we'll be implementing on this project. So again, through all of that, our students are the ones that work through these plans, that helped plan this out, and physically are the ones out here doing the work. So it's been really great. I would just like to take a little bit of time to mention my colleagues and the student team on this as well. So first of all, I'll mention Chris Trigakis, and maybe Chris will raise his hand back there. Chris is our coordinator for the landscape design and contracting program, so integral through this process. Also my other colleague, Scott Curry, an assistant professor here in the program as well. And I'll go ahead and just mention the students' names. So we had a total of 4 or 5 actually students working on this through the design process, but also through the implementation process. So I'll go ahead and start with Bailey Craven. Bailey Bailey. Bailey is a second-year student, grew up in Fort Collins and Laramie, Wyoming. Hold tight, Bailey. So Bailey Craven, one more time here. Stand up, please. Yeah. So Bailey Craven is a second-year student in our program, again, growing up in Fort Collins and Laramie, Wyoming. This summer, Bailey is actually going to be completing an internship out in Fairfield County, Connecticut, so we're really excited for her and amazing opportunities ahead. Our next student that worked on the design team was Bailey Dettel. Bailey? And so Bailey Dettel comes from the giant metropolis of Dalhart, Texas, a small town in the northern portion of Texas. Bailey is going to be graduating here in just a few weeks, and she's going to start her career in the Dallas, Texas area. So a wonderful person, additional team member on the design. And then Craig Wright. Craig? So Craig is from Frederick, Colorado, and he also will be graduating in just a few weeks, and he's going to start his career here in northern Colorado, so very exciting. Part of our construction team, Gavin Franklin. Gavin? Gavin's a third-year student. He'll be graduating next year. Gavin's from Indianapolis, and this summer he'll actually be going back and working in his family's business, Indianapolis. So those are folks here. The person that couldn't join us today is Alex Krupeka, and Alex is a student that grew up in Sisters, Oregon, another small town. Will be graduating here in just a few weeks and beginning his career in Nashville, Tennessee. So just an amazing group of students, and it's been a wonderful pleasure to see this unfold, and we can't wait for the construction to begin on this. So I'll turn it back over to Chad Miller.
I'd also just like to say thanks to the students. It's been great to see your work. So as you can see, the herb garden is already serving as a learning opportunity for our students. Thanks to Zach and the students in the LDC program for the work they've already done and for the work that will continue in the coming weeks. As the land-grant institution with missions in teaching, research, and extension, the Feinblum Herb Garden will undoubtedly provide numerous opportunities to engage our students, faculty, staff, and the community members across disciplines. Again, we are already doing that in our classrooms and our teaching endeavors as outlined by Zach. In conversation with my colleagues and community members, I can tell you there's a lot of excitement for this garden, Barney and Jules. I think this will be a great addition to our informal garden and art district of Fort Collins. There will be exciting opportunities to collaborate with colleagues not only in the Horticulture and Landscape Architecture Department, the College of Agricultural Sciences, but in departments and colleges across campus. I know Barney was hopeful that there would be some more scientific research associated with the gardens. Barney, I can assure you there's already discussions about this happening, okay? And there will be research that will be centered around herbs and those types of plants in our programs. This garden will provide visitors with the chance to learn more about the wonders of herbs and their importance and use in our daily lives. Moreover, there will be a great opportunity to engage with the community, not only from the horticulture perspective, but also from a medicinal health and well-being approach. Underpinning Barney and Jules' support for this garden is that healthy living and thriving communities is a shared belief that plants are not merely commodities, but teachers that quietly demonstrate resilience, interconnection, and the power of small things that can create lasting change. I look forward to, and I think many others look forward to, this garden implementation in the next couple of weeks. We plan to begin adding plants throughout the summer, so I invite you to come back, enjoy the garden spaces here, see the progression of the herb garden. We will also have one of the sesquicentennial sculptures coming into the garden area over here as well, so you'll be able to enjoy some new additions in this space. So with that, I would like to invite Barney to come up here to share a few words. And I think we will just leave that. So we canceled the rain and the snow, but the wind came, so we can handle that. I'll just say a few words about Barney as he comes up here. And many of you may know Barney, but for those that don't, Barney is an industrial engineer with an MBA in finance from Cornell University, which I should note, Cornell has a prominent herb garden from which Barney has drawn great inspiration. As a fellow Cornell alum, I spent many hours walking around and enjoying the Robinson Herb Garden, so I have some perspective of where Barney is coming from. In 1976, Barney joined Celestial Seasonings in Boulder, and in nearly 2 decades, he rose through the ranks from managing the production floor to serving as CEO. And under his leadership, the startup grew to be nationally recognized. Barney was also the CEO of Horizon Organic, helping to revolutionize the dairy industry, assisting with helping to introduce the first widely available national organic milk brand in the United States. In the early 70s, Barney met Jules. Jules had a deep passion for plants and herbs, and it was Jules who encouraged Barney to take the job at Celestial Seasoning. Together over the decades, Barney and Jules have been pioneering figures in Colorado's natural and organic foods movement. Their noted business philosophy is highly respected for proving that science, business, and values can reinforce one another, showing that companies can be highly profitable while prioritizing truth, beauty, and goodness. Their years of value-driven business leadership have helped to transform local Colorado startups into household national brands. This is just a brief snippet of Barney and Jules' long involvement and history in the natural and organic foods industry. I could go on, but we have Barney to actually just tell him about himself. Thank you, Barney and Jules, for your generosity and your support. I'm excited, as long as many others are, and honored to be able to help make your dreams come to fruition and help share your passion. Barney.
Thank you.
You want this?
No, I think I'm okay.
You're okay.
Yeah. I think I'll be okay, Steve.
Good.
Okay, thank you, Chad. And I want to thank Governor Polis for coming, and my good friend Kim Bixel. Okay, Kim Bixel has helped me with this project for a couple of years now. And I'd like to also thank Carrie Butler, because getting through CSU is not an easy process. Chad Miller, Zach Johnson, and the talented students that were previously introduced to you. I guess Jules and I have had a wonderful life here in Colorado. Okay, we met in 1972, and Jules was the herbalist. Okay, I was the businessman. And we're proud to make this gift to establish this herb garden at CSU. You know, I believe deeply in education. You know, as was said, I had my undergraduate degree from Cornell University, and it was a gift that Jules and I gave to Cornell for the 50th anniversary of their herb garden. And then I went to CSU Spur, where I started to talk to people like Ming Ming Gu, who's here, and I asked her, "Where's your herb garden?" And I was told, "We don't have one." And I was kind of amazed that we could have a company like Celestial Seasonings and not have an herb garden. You know, Celestial Seasonings was a marvelous company, but it basically took herbs that were, you know, kitchen plants for some progressive people into every grocery store in America. And that's not an easy thing to do. And it has a philosophy that is a marvelous company. Truth, beauty, and goodness was mentioned earlier. And that really was the philosophy of Celestial Seasonings. And it, you know, Mo Siegel and John Hay started it, and both of them wanted to be here, but they couldn't. You know, but the company they created was a wonderful company that every business should practice. You know, when I met Jules, it was 1972. And we got married in 1974, and she convinced me to take a cut and pay and the job as production manager of Celestial Seasonings. That was probably the best move I made in my life, okay? Because herbs played an important part in our life. And, you know, our life in Colorado was built around herbs, and that herbs are marvelous plants. you know, they're special. Okay, and when I look at what Celestial did, you know, it basically took herbs to another level. And that's why I was shocked when I was at went to CSU Spur and asked, where's your herb garden? And found out there wasn't one. I don't think there's one in Colorado. Okay, and you know, Jules and I supported Cornell's herb garden's 50th anniversary because herbs were so important to us, and Cornell was my undergraduate school. And then I was at CSU Spur, I asked people like Ming Ming Gu, where's your herb garden? She said there wasn't one. And so, you know, Jules and I will now be long gone, but CSU will have an herb garden. Because this one is given on campus in perpetuity. You know, I guess I can just turn the page. Okay. You know, I believe in education. Okay, I got an MBA from CU, but I realized that the herb garden didn't belong there. It belonged here at CSU because CSU is the land-grant college of the state of Colorado. It's the ag school. Most all the businesses I were in were ag businesses. And, you know, the herbs are magical plants, and we need to have a garden to represent what you can do with herbs. And it should be part, you know, now this is a history lesson because Celestial Seasonings, you know, started about 1970, 69, I think. And that story goes to prove what we've been trying to say, is that you can change the world with a few small plants. And Celestial did that, okay? When I look at what Celestial did in terms of not just popularizing herb tea, but getting involved with an industry and basically creating the natural foods movement. You know, company stores like Alfalfa's were called natural food stores. Well, what did that mean about the rest of the country? Does that mean there was nothing natural or clean when you went to a grocery store? I'm afraid it did. Okay. And companies like Celestial Seasonings inspired many more companies to get into the industry. Okay, here in Colorado, we should be proud of, what did you call it, Steve? The Silicon Valley, okay, of, you know, it's like that in Colorado when I think about just the companies I've been involved with. I mean, it's nice to see people like Jeff Cohen, you know, who's kind of became the coffee guy for Whole Foods, okay? And, you know, other people that I haven't seen in years who participated and helped make Celestial a great company. Keith Brenner, okay? Tim Conway. If you were here, you know, the word organic didn't come into existence until 1990. Okay, Celestial started up 20 years before that. Okay, and it's that legacy of truth, beauty, and goodness that really was the, you know, the philosophy of Celestial. You know, when I talked to Mo, when I talked to John, you know, what they left was a legacy of people who built the company that way. I see Tim Conway, David Black, you know, people I haven't seen in many years, you know, who really built that, because nobody changes the world by themselves, okay? It was Celestial Seasonings. Unfortunately, there were more customers like Jules who got people into stores like Alfalfa's, okay? And eventually, you know, it's got sold, Alfalfa's got sold, but it's probably part of the 500 plus stores that are now Whole Foods today, okay? And the lesson to be learned was, there were two main lessons. the fact that people would pay a premium price for organic validated, that they were willing to pay for what they valued. Okay, and that, and that's grew into God knows how many stores are in that, how many companies are in that, but just the ones I was involved with. Horizon Organic, I remember convincing a farmer to make 1,000 organic cows for us so we could introduce organic milk, okay? I called that farmer recently and said, Mark, how many organic cows do you think there are today? His answer was 375,000, okay? And that's what I mean by starting small with a good idea, with a little company, and building it into a force that changes the world, okay? I also think Celestial changed the way America exercises with bicycles, okay? None of you can remember the Red Zinger Classic, but, before that, those bicycles were kids' toys. Now they're everywhere where people are exercising. So that's another way Celestial had an impact on the society. So that's what I want to teach the kids today. I want them to learn something good, and that's that you can indeed change the world with a few simple plants. Thank you.
As a land-grant university alum myself, I'm a Penn Stater. I think it's important to hear the history because a lot of the founders of our natural and organic food industry are based right here in Colorado. So Barney, thank you for giving us a history lesson, but also more importantly, Barney and Julie are leaving a legacy, and that legacy is really important for future generations. So I love to hear, Zach, about the students that are involved in this project because stand on the shoulders of these giants and take us forward into more sustainability, more healthy living, more better for you products, because we all do better when everybody does better, right? Chad, I know you want to get us to the groundbreaking ceremony, so you want to lead that for us. And thank you all so much for coming today. And we're going to do the groundbreaking and then some networking, so stick around.